Hello, it's XP Escobar here with another video, and I'm going to be doing an in-depth track review on Whole Lotta Red because I really like this album, and I feel like I want to go in depth on showing why it is instead of just people just messaging me, well, you're also trash too, so it makes sense you'd like it. I want to explain why I like this album and not just me saying I like this album or this album is good and I like it like that. I'm going to go in depth with every single track, with all 24 tracks on this album. Okay, I'm going to get started. It has, Rockstar Made has a really great beat. It took me a while to It took me a lot of listens. This is probably one of my most listened to tracks off the album. It's talking about actually rockstar life. If you listen to his hook saying never too much and never too much, a lot of times it's talking about his reckless rockstar lifestyle, about him feeling like nothing he ever does is enough or nothing he ever does is too much. And it's honestly sound-wise is probably even better than the topic, and the topic is pretty great overall. I think it has really great, if you're like someone who fucks with like metal and punk music and stuff, like I kind of mess with that stuff a little bit. Like with he has abrasive vocals that kind of sound inspired by that stuff in his rapping over this kind of edgy beat, and in my opinion, one of the best beats on the album. And I don't think it's the most mind-blowing song off this album, but I think it's pretty good. And it's probably one of the best songs I've heard. I'll personally give the song a 10 out of 10. And yeah. Go to the Moon. So, as y'all probably know, Kanye West is one of my favorite rappers. And I think, personally, this is one of Kanye's strongest verses since Jesus is King. And yeah. It has a cool, mysterious beat. Kanye has a lot of great wordplay, a lot of good lyrics, and a lot of rhyming ability. The only kind of problem with this song for me is there's not really much on Cardi's part. It doesn't feel like Cardi's actual track. It's a good song. I like it. I enjoy it, but it shouldn't be Cardi's. It just sounds like Kanye West featuring Cardi. His verse is just really short and not that long, and Kanye just completely carries him, and it's not even close for me. I'll personally give this an 8 out of 10 because sound-wise it's probably pretty good, but I have to give it lower for not even fucking sounding like it's Cardi's song, and it sounds more like something that's going to be on Donda than something that's going to be on Whole Lotta Red or is on Whole Lotta Red. Stop Breathing. I'd say that this song has a crazy beat. Cardi raps in his abrasive style voice yet again, and he ends up talking about gang shit and sex a little bit. And he talks about a few deep moments, talking about his brother dying and moments like that. Overall, it's a great track. I really, really love how it sounds, especially. And personally, I'll definitely say this is a 9.7. Beano is pretty good. This one kind of just, with the beat, just feels like a At Meh style song, like the track that Cardi dropped a few months before Whole Lotta Red, or several months. And vocally wise, it seems like a little bit more of his baby voice. And it has a catchy flow. I can't tell really what the track is lyrically, but it's still an enjoyable track. And I think a lot of times it just feels like an improved version of the song At Meh. Not saying At Meh is a bad song, because I personally think that song's a banger re-listening to it. But yeah, I'll give that song an 8 out of 10. I don't think it was too amazing or anything, but I think it was pretty decent. Jump Out the House. I know a lot of people really like to hate on this song. Will definitely say it's like the worst on the album, and don't get me wrong, for a Whole Lotta Red, I think it's a weak song. I don't think it's too great, and I think Cardi has made way better. And I think probably is possibly one of the worst Cardi tracks he's ever made. And I think I still like it because Cardi has grown on me exponentially, and I'm starting to really like him. And I'd probably say that it has a good beat. It has basic repetitive lyrics. It has catchy flows and interesting vocals. I like it, but I feel like putting it above so many other tracks is just kind of a diss in a way, because even though it's a good track, I don't think it's too good if you think of Cardi. And now this is probably one of my favorite tracks on the album, Metamorphosis. And that's, well, it has a great beat. It has some of like from Cudi, it has some of his greatest hums. Like I don't think I've heard better hums from Cudi on his Man on the Moon 3 album, and yeah, some of the greatest I've ever heard from Cudi. And I just say this is one of the most amazing songs I've probably ever heard in my life. And I think it has great vocals and they work very incredibly with the beat. The track just kind of seems to be an anthem for just against haters and to just be yourself, because it's saying stuff like, can't nobody tell you shit, and it's just showing how you should just be yourself, and it shows Cardi accepting himself and others. I'd say, probably an unpopular opinion, but Cudi laid down one of his greatest verses since probably since Man on the Moon 2, or maybe more likely to be Kids See Ghosts, because that was also a great album. But Cudi gave a pretty great verse. It was one of my favorite by him. It was definitely better than anything that was on Man on the Moon 3, which I think is probably an unpopular opinion. But that's just talking about how great the verse is, in my opinion, because I thought Man on the Moon 3 was a pretty decent album. And lyrically, it's actually really underrated, in my opinion, because it explains a caterpillar turning into a butterfly. And I feel like that is kind of a metaphor for Cardi growing musically and getting better as a person. And if you all don't know what the fuck I'm talking about by that, he repeats the word metamorphosis, which is the process of a caterpillar growing into a butterfly. And I think it's quite a creative track, and I think it does what it wants to do. I'll easily give this track a 10 out of 10. Well, Slayer. I think this is a good song, but it's definitely one of the more mainstream songs, one of the more mainstream sounding songs. I personally like experimental songs, probably way more than mainstream usually, with maybe few exceptions, but with Slayer, it's a pretty good song. It has a nice beat. It has a good flow, and he has this mix of abrasive vocals with his baby voice, but more mixed with the baby voice than usual, but also with abrasive vocals a lot. It's a very big mix. It's one of the biggest in-betweens on this album. I'd say Cardi, lyrically, he talks about his life as a famous rapper, and people, his fans, caring about him and freaking out seeing him in places, and just overall just liking him a lot and caring for him. And he's talking about all of his fans and all of his life famous. And he occasionally talks about his life before fame. Sound-wise, I think it's decent for Cardi, not anything amazing, but I still think it's good. I'd give it a 9 out of 10. No Sleep. I think this song has quite a cool beat, and Cardi talks about violence a lot and also talks about his dreams of committing violence. He has quite a great flow on it, and I enjoy the vocals a lot. It's good. It just felt a little bit safe compared to the rest of the album, and I think it's a good track. I just think they're probably better on the album. I'd give it an 8.9 out of 10. Okay, No Sleep. Or New Tank, sorry. I'd say it has a great beat. It has a catchy flow. It also has pretty cool vocals. It seems like Cardi is talking about his life as a famous rapper a little bit. I think it's a good track. I think he does it slightly better than he does in Slayer, and I think, honestly, his flow and voice is pretty great. When I originally thought about this, I probably was giving it a 9.3, but I'm now thinking about giving it more like a 9.6 or a 9.5. Probably a 9.5, but yeah. Teen X is the next song on the album. I'd say the song is ultra baby voice Cardi. It's some of the most baby voice you see from Cardi. But it just sounds like the beat is made from a drugged up ice cream truck, which for some people results in a song they love or hate. And I love it. And lyrically, it just seems like it's talking about his experience with drugs and the amount he's high. The only problem I have with the track, and I don't want salty Future fans coming at me, I think he kind of ruins his part of the song, and I don't like his verse, and I don't really think his voice really works with the beat, at all. I'd personally give this track a 9.6. It would be really, really high up there if it wasn't for Future's verse, honestly. It would have been an almost 9.9. Yeah. Meh. And just for anybody who maybe hasn't actually listened to the album but is watching this review for some reason, it is a different track than At Meh. It is, honestly, I'd say this is one of the best beats on the album. I'd say he has a great voice and a great flow, and it seems like he talks about people stealing his style quite a bit on it. And I'd say it's a pretty good track. I'd say it's, sound-wise, one of the best tracks on the album. I'd probably say it's a 9.5. Vamp Anthem. I'd say, honestly, this beat, for especially, for Cardi, this is, next level shit. This is, one of the greatest beats I've ever heard on a Cardi album. And he has some of his greatest vocals on the song, and he also has a great flow. Seems like he's also doing some of his best lyrics and rhyming ability, but he's also just talking about gang stuff and money. This will seem ridiculous to some, but I personally actually will think this track is a 10 out of 10. This is a pretty cool track for me. I don't think there's many, Cardi tracks that have, a similar vibe, and, I really love the vibe here. We're now at New Neon. I'd say the song is good. It has quite an atmospheric beat, and I think it's very, 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 relaxing. And I really love how it makes me feel. It's a very catchy flow. His vocals, they're decent, and they work perfectly with the beat. Lyrically, this track is not too amazing, and that's the only thing that I can really criticize. I'd say that this is easily a 9 out of 10 for me, because just goddamn, it's one of those tracks for me that's personally, you have to actually be listening to it to know what the score is. If you, see, regularly I might think it's an 8.5, but when I'm actually listening to it, I just get so chill and just so relaxed, and that's why it feels like a 9 to me. Now we're at the song Control. I absolutely hate the DJ Academics intro. You shouldn't not ever put DJ Academics in the middle of the album. I would kind of be annoyed if he put it at the beginning of his album, but in the middle it just kind of kills off the vibe. Like it has there's a great beat, and I don't really see the need to have a DJ Academics intro on the song. I'd say the beat honestly sounds kind of like, if y'all know Wreck-It Ralph, it kind of sounds like Sugar Rush from it, but if it was mixed with the meh beat. Lyrically, this track seems to be talking about Cardi losing control in a relationship. He's also talking about just how he's willing to change for his partner and significant other. Seems like he can't change for anyone else, but he was willing to change for his partner. He says he can't change, but he will do things that are not normal for him because of how much he loves his partner. And he also talks about the idea of a marriage proposal. His vocals are as usual on point and his flow is great, but lyrics for me are the focus on this track. Even though I hate the intro and it should not be put in the middle of the album, everything else is incredible and ends up as a 10 out of 10. Okay, we're at Punk Monk now on this album. I'm going to say the beat is amazing, or the beat is great and has an amazing beat drop that kicks it off. Cardi talks about label issues with some kind of baby voice, but with a more raspy sound for his vocals. He has a good flow. His lyrics also kind of expose the labels. For him talking about how he wants to sign people like Trippie Redd, and how he was fucking with Lil Keed before he before he was famous, and talking about how he was with Lil TJ hanging out before they were even before Lil TJ's label turned him against him. And yeah, I think it's a pretty good song. I'd probably give it a 9.2 out of 10. I think probably just sound-wise it's not as good as a lot of the other tracks on here. Now we're at On That Time. I think this is one of the beats I've heard in a while. His voice is aggressive, but less than usual. He has a great flow that's catchy. Seems like he's talking about guns and gang life, but even though he talks about it a lot, he does it more uniquely here. Personally, I think it's a very, very, great track, and I think I'd, enjoy it, and, it's just so crazy feeling. It's just, the beat, goes, dun, 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 and, it just has this feel, and, when you listen to it, and then Cardi's just, yelling, push up, and it's just, so crazy. Personally, the only thing that it's only a tiny concern for me, but I think he could have done a tiny bit better with lyrics. And I don't want to get clowned for looking for Cardi for lyrics, but I think he honestly is an underrated lyricist. I'd give this track a 9.9 out of 10. King Vampire is the next song. The beat is decent. The chorus is very for me personally. For Cardi, he could do much better chorus-wise. I think, personally, the verses are honestly way better than the rest of the song for me, personally. He seems like he talks about a lot of hard stuff, but also talks about bragging a lot. This is probably the worst track on the album, honestly. That I don't want to get shit for that, but I probably am. But I'd probably say this is a 6.5 out of 10 for me. Place. This beat sounds like some Die-Lit style production, and I think it's a really, really great beat. And I think he does the beat he does the song well with his baby voice style. I don't really think about the lyrics that much when listening to it, but it's not really my focus because he didn't really get too lyrically focused in my opinion until Whole Lotta Red. But I think it's a great track, but there's one kind of big, obvious problem. It does not fit on Whole Lotta Red. It doesn't sound like it's on Whole Lotta Red. It sounds like a Die-Lit leftover. It sounds don't get me wrong. Like I love this track, but I think it was just a Die Lit leftover. Like, it possibly would have even been one of the best tracks on Die Lit if it was on Die Lit. But I don't think it should be on Whole Lotta Red. I still think it's a great song, though, and I'd probably give it an 8.5 out of 10. We are now at the song Sky. Oh, God, I love this one. This is a great beat. Like, this beat is pretty good. Like, and like that. It has like a laid back, low-key delivery, and his flow is pretty catchy. The song seems to be talking about drug addiction a lot, honestly, and like just seems like something that's pretty deep compared to the rest of the album, and I feel just it has a very great vibe to it, and I love it. When I listen to it, I just like get in my zone. I get like relaxed. Like I don't feel like I'm gonna fall asleep. I just feel like I'm in like my zone, and I just feel like I'm listening to the music, just listening to everything. And the message is pretty like, as it's honestly kind of relatable, and I think it's kind of just a good track, and it speaks to me. I'll give this track personally a 10 out of 10. The next track is Over. The beat sounds kind of like A Long Time, like off of his Die Lit album, but with a Whole Lotta Red twist. He seems like he's talking about his relationship issues, like with Iggy Azalea. Like he's like when he's talking about stuff like how the fuck we got to where we started, like stuff like that. Like it really sounds like he's talking about how his relationship got so terrible with Iggy Azalea. And I honestly think to put this track after Sky is just so amazing. And whoever chose to do that, if that was Cardi's choice, then that's a very great plus, and it's an amazing idea. But yeah, I'd personally give this album a 10 out of 10. I think it's, or this track. Yeah, I think it's a 10 out of 10 personally. This is a really, really, really great song. And with like about 4 tracks left, we got I Love You, I Hate You is one of the next songs. I don't know how annoying sounding this will be, but I Love You, I Hate You it's possibly the greatest Pierre Porn beat of all time. Like, honestly, like it's a great song, and it has a great voice over it. His flow is good, and I think the title, like, he didn't follow the title too much with it, but the thought especially seems pretty good. It's about him loving his partner and also hating them, which is a pretty good concept. And I can't hear too much what he's saying, and most of the time, but I still really, really love the vibe to it, and I'll give it a 10 out of 10. Honestly, the song is really good. I think we're gonna talk about Die for Guy next. I think the beat. I think the beat is pretty good. I don't think it's super amazing, but I think it's good. The song is talking about him dying for his friends and people he cares about. The song shows how much Cardi cares about people who are close to him. This vibe is incredible. His heart was in a great place, and he has a pretty nice flow. I think sound-wise, it's not too amazing, but I think the message of the song is really what really, really, really makes me like this track. And that's when I'll give it, you guessed it, another 10 out of 10. Yeah. Not Playing is the next one. Yeah. This beat is simple but pretty good. Cardi is talking about blowing up and succeeding as a rapper. The first few listens, it was bottom tier, but it's actually starting to seem pretty great. Calling it a 10 is still a huge stretch, though, and I personally say it's an 8.9. And yeah, we've now reached the last track of the album I'm reviewing, and that's Feel Like Dying. The beat has a sample and it sounds very different than anything on like Whole Lotta Red. Like I can't really even think of many rap beats in general that sound like Feel Like Dying. It's just a great beat. Lyrically, it's talking about his suicidal tendencies and talking about his heartbreak and a lot of times drug addiction. This song feels like it honestly just speaks to me a lot and I think it's one of the songs on the album that I love a lot, and it makes me wonder about the haters for this great, incredible album. I think this song is a 10 out of 10, but like not as easily as other things, but I think it's easily a 10 out of 10. Honestly, this album has good and bad moments, but for me, the most common score is 10, and it makes me think this album is incredible. Honestly, despite its flaws and criticisms I've given it, it's one of my favorite albums of all time. I'll give this album a 10, and especially because it influences me and speaks to me on the best tracks there. And on songs and on tracks like Sky, Feel Like Dying, Over, and Control, they really talk about good situations for Cardi, kinda. Like, it just seems like they're talking about great things, but also bad things. And it just seems like some of the best lyrics that Cardi has made and some of the best vibes he's ever given. This, in my opinion, this album is honestly gonna be one of the blueprints to modern rap. And I think it's easily the album of the year of 2020. Honestly, how do y'all feel about the album? I know you probably don't like it as much as I do because practically everybody hates it as much, like more than me, but I think it's honestly one of those albums you either love or hate. Or you just need to listen more and you kind of like it, if that makes any sense. Like, especially like a month ago when it came out, it just seemed like everybody was just like, wow, this is trash, or wow, this is amazing. Like, there wasn't really any in between at that time. But yeah, I personally love this album. Comment how you feel it, comment your favorite tracks, or comment how you would rate every track I rated, and maybe some thoughts about it. Okay, thanks for watching this entire video, and I know it's long, but I feel like it's kind of important because this is a pretty good album from Playboi Carti that dropped. And personally, out of all of the albums that Playboi Carti has dropped, I'd say Dial It, Playboi Carti self-titled mixtape, and then Dial It. They're all very great albums though, but Whole Lotta Red, it's next level shit. And thanks for watching, and bye.